I wanted to really honor the people that I'd worked with. My teachers are the folks that I cared for, at Zen Hospice and beyond. And my relationship with them was very personal, highly personal, and they taught me everything I know. And so I really wanted to be sure that I did justice to what they had offered me. Yeah.
So the book is The 5 Invitations, Discovering What Death Can Teach Us About Living Fully. Mm-hmm. It is both a distillation of being with 1,000 dying people and all of that, and a lot of personal stories as well. So I just want you to do, as you wish now, to read from it a little bit and tell us about it as you wish for a bit here.
Okay, well, maybe I'll just read a little piece, maybe from the intro, and then we'll see where it takes us. It's nice to read to people. It's like story time. Yeah. So let's see. Well, let's start with the people I was just talking about. Well, first to say, without a reminder of death, we tend to take life for granted, often becoming lost in endless pursuits of self-gratification. But when we keep death at our fingertips, it reminds us not to hold on to life too tightly. And maybe we take our ideas or ourselves a little less seriously. We let go a little more easily. And we recognize that when death comes to everyone. And this has us appreciate that we're in the boat together. And this helps us to be a bit kinder and gentler with one another. As we come in contact with life's precarious nature, we also come to appreciate its preciousness. Then we don't want to waste a moment. Then we want to enter into our lives fully and use them in a responsible way. Death is a good companion on the road to living well and dying without regret. I want to tell you a little bit about some of the people I worked with. Some of the people I worked with, and that Steve worked with, lived in terrible conditions, in rat-infested hotels or on park benches behind City Hall. They were alcoholics and prostitutes, homeless folks who barely survived on the margins of society. And often they wore the face of resignation or were angry about their loss of control. Many had lost all trust in humanity. Some were from cultures I did not know, speaking languages I could not understand. Some had a deep faith that carried them through difficult times, while others had sworn off religion years before. Niwen feared ghosts. Isaiah, his roommate, was very comforted by visits from his dead mother. They were roommates, huh? That was interesting. And then there was this hemophiliac father who I worked with, who had contracted the HIV disease from a blood transfusion. But a year before that, he had disowned his gay son because he had been diagnosed with AIDS. And now the father and son were living in twin beds in a single room and being cared for by Agnes, the husband's wife and the son's mother. Many of the people I worked with died in their early 20s, having hardly begun their lives. But then there was a woman I cared for named Elizabeth, who at 93 asked, "Why has death come for me so soon?" Some were clear as bells, whereas others couldn't recall their own names. Some were surrounded by love of family and friends, others entirely alone. Alex, without the support of his loved ones, became so confused from his dementia that he climbed out onto a fire escape one night and froze to death. We cared for cops and firefighters who had saved numerous lives, nurses who had tended to the pain and breathlessness of others, doctors who had pronounced patients dead from the same illnesses that were now ravaging their own bodies, people with political power and acquired wealth and good health insurance, and refugees with little more than the shirts on their backs. For some, dying was a great gift. They made reconciliations with their long-lost families. They freely expressed their love and forgiveness, or they found the kindness and acceptance they'd been looking for their whole lives. Still others turned toward the wall in withdrawal and depression, and they never came back again. All of them were my teachers. These people invited me into the most vulnerable moments and made it possible for me to get up close and personal with death. And in the process, they taught me how to live. I wrote the 5 invitations on a cocktail napkin about 30,000 feet over Kansas. Steve mentioned Bill Moyers, and Bill and I knew each other from something else, another program we had done together, and he had invited me back with a group of experts to have what he called a teach-in around for his crew and production crew, because he was making this wonderful documentary on dying in America called On Our Own Terms. So I prepared a very salient talk. It was really good. Yeah. And I arrived, and I was on a panel with some silver-tongued devils, you know, whose names I won't mention, you know them. And when it came time for my salient talk, they had run out of time. I couldn't give it. Yeah. The silver-tongued devils had carried on too long. So Bill pulled me aside and he said, "Could you just say something in a few minutes, you know, that really speaks to the heart of this work, you know?" So I put aside my talk and I pulled out my cocktail napkin. And on it, I had written 5 slogans, 5 principles, 5 invitations. The first was, don't wait. Don't wait. Don't wait to tell someone you love that you love them. Don't wait until the time of your dying to find out the lessons it has to teach. The second invitation was, welcome everything, push away nothing. Now this sounds good, it would make a great bumper sticker, right? But how do we do that, you know? To welcome everything and push away nothing, this really confronts us. The word welcome confronts our whole notion of judgment and comparing. To welcome everything doesn't mean we have to like what shows up or agree with it. It just means we have to be willing to meet it. It's at our door. I have a friend who went to dinner one night at the home of a man who was the president of the Psychiatric Association. And he had developed Alzheimer's in his last few years. And so when they arrived at the door, this gentleman had had a hard time now remembering names and recognizing faces. And so they rang the doorbell and he opened the door and he stared at them for a while. And then he said, "I'm so sorry. I don't remember faces very well anymore. And I don't recognize people's names. But I know this is my house. And I know that it's always been a place where people were welcomed. So if you're standing on my doorstep, my job is to welcome you in." Yeah, yeah. The great African-American writer James Baldwin, some of you have seen this beautiful documentary that's out now, I Am Not Your Negro. It's a brilliant documentary. And in the course of that, in the course of his writings, but also in that documentary, he says something like, we cannot always change what we must face. But, wait, I want to get this right. We cannot always change what we must face, but we cannot change anything that we're unwilling to face. Yeah. So that's what welcome everything, push away nothing is. And then the third invitation is bring your whole self to the experience. Bring your whole self to the experience. Now, those of us that are involved in care of people at the end of life or caring for our friends and families, we imagine it's our strength or our expertise that will help. Yeah? And they do. But one of the things that I've noticed in my own work is that my helplessness also serves, and my fear also serves. They serve as meeting places with the people that I'm in contact with. They help me to build an empathetic bridge to their experience. I've found that over the years that the things that I was most ashamed of, the parts of myself that I was most embarrassed about or wanted to hide away, you know, they actually became the very thing that allowed me to be with other people, you know. They became my greatest assets oftentimes, yeah. So to bring your whole self to the experience doesn't mean that you have to be perfect. It means that no part of you is left out.